Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand. Today, my guest is former NXT Tag Team Champion and NXT Award winner for Tag Team of the Year, Alexander Wolfe. You now go by your real name, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, excellent. So, what made you want to get into professional wrestling?
Um, as probably every professional wrestler, you start being a fan or becoming a fan, and so am I. I started watching wrestling since I was 6 years old, and I fell in love with it right away because I'm a huge fan in comics still to this day. And for me, back in the day when I was 6 years old, that was like my real life comic, like presentation TV. So I liked it. I loved it right from the get go. And then eventually, when I was old enough, so to speak, old enough, with 13, I started like training professional wrestling. I started in my hometown, and yeah, just learned the techniques, how to fall, how to, can absorb the pain, like how to, let's say, do not waste your body too quick.
Mm-hmm.
So like the first like steps into professional wrestling business, and then just attending at seminars, etc., etc. So it's like a lot of time since I started my wrestling training, but I remember, as it would be the day one, like I fell in love with it, and I used the opportunity just to, start it to become a professional wrestler eventually.
So from 13 on, this was just what you were going to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And there's
did
nothing. I just dismissed soccer and all the other sports, and wrestling was
hmm
the 100% everything what I want to do.
so how long did you train before you started having actual matches?
Oh, I mean, it was maybe 3/4 year,
hmm
something like that. It was like the first appearance was like a Rumble or Battle Royal. No, it was a Rumble, and then it was a tag team match, like smaller shows, like
hmm
I would say backyard shows.
hmm
And then I think my first like really professional wrestling match was around 2007 as a rookie, but under a professional promotion. So it took me a while though.
hmm Now, was it hard being that young? Did you have to lie a little bit, or did they just book you regardless? Because that happens here a lot. People will, oh, I'm old enough.
Oh no, no, no. I remember that case. It was more kind of like let's try to teach the kids before they,
hmm
you know, screw each other, like or not screw each other, but kill each other in school. So because that time it was pretty much like popular that wrestling stuff here and there, and me guilty as charged. I tried to like suplex my best friend on the couch in the classroom and stuff like that and whatever. So we kind of like played wrestlers, and then with the age of 13, I mean 13, but in that year I turned 14.
hmm
So, but still 14 is pretty young age. But they were open to teach me
hmm
and to kind of like create the respect of that sport that you should not do it in school. And that was pretty much like a little bit lifesaver, career saver, because of that, I kind of like gave my everything to the wrestling training, and I skipped the parts of, you know, the teenager years of being stupid and doing nonsense. If that
hmm
makes sense.
So from 2007 on, was this when you were a professional and you were traveling and going different
Yeah,
places? So how
yeah.
was it
So I
over
started.
there?
It was not as it is in the States because I mean Europe, that continent, you can travel to the border of the next country, and so I'm in East Germany, so I mean 1 or 2 hour distance, I can be in a different country. So it's three different countries to be more specific. If you live in Germany, it's pretty easy to travel. So, but also you have to put out like a resume that you get booked. But if you only have a couple matches down, you know nobody cares.
hmm
So in America, I believe it's pretty easier, especially with people like my coworkers or my former coworkers I have spoken with. they told me a story about like just being on the road every weekend. So in that case, it was not possible for me. First of all, I still was young, and second of all, because of work. And I think the third one was you try to establish your name first in your home country, and then you go to different adventures. Then you go to different countries. I was lucky enough because when I started training professional, I had some experience before, so I kind of used that to go quicker to the top where I could drive somebody to a show because I was the driver. I had the chance to be on the card as well, so just put my name out there, which brought me a lot of work in France, for example.
Hmm.
And then later on, around 2009-ish, I just had the chance just to become a bigger name in the German wrestling scene. And I think from 2011 on, I was constantly booked for WXW. WXW is the biggest wrestling promotion in Europe. And then from there on, I was booked almost every weekend. So
Hmm. So what made you break out and become that name over in Germany and for
mm,
WXW?
it was the 16 karat gold tournament in 2011. I was not a part of the tournament, but I was a part of the so-called alternate four-way matches. So the alternate four-way matches is like the person who wins the match could replace a person who gets injured in the tournament. But that was not the case. It was for the case that I was part on that weekend, and the four no, the two alternate four matches before day one and two, I was successful the second day, and then the third day I had a match against one of the Japanese guys. His name was Yoshishu Sasaki from Big Japan Wrestling, and I don't know why. I don't speak Japanese that good, but I always feel I have a good chemistry with Japanese wrestlers because it's the art of wrestling. It's you don't
Hmm.
have to speak any foreign language. It's the language of wrestling. And I remember I had in 2008, I believe, a match against Kanemaru from Pro Wrestling Noah, and it was a decent match where like I could showcase my abilities to wrestle against like one of the top Japanese guys.
Hmm.
And then with Shishu Sasaki, I kind of like let loose and just let myself go and did not. It was kind of for me the first experience where I kind of like did not thought about what I do in the ring. I just felt it and did it. So and they said it was my breakout performance, and that's why I became a constantly. I became constantly booked for WW. So it made me one of the um, fixed roster members.
Hmm. So is this what got you on WWE's radar?
I believe the work in WXW in general, but also because I read the right person and at
Hmm.
the right place at the right time, I had the opportunity just to, I was asked by one of the German commentators if I would love to attend at a WWE tryout in London. And for me, at that time, WWE wasn't interesting at all because I didn't saw myself become a WWE superstar. I was more focusing on Japan, for
Hmm.
example, or American Indies. But yeah, of course, if somebody asks you, you never say no, especially not for WWE. So and that's why I kind of got recommended, and then WWE got in contact with me, and I gave them everything what they want, and they invited me. So.
See, I think that's that's something that a lot of younger people don't understand. Is you said you weren't ready, at that time. You have certain people have other goals and aspirations, and if you just get in
Yep.
that mindset of WWE or nothing, you'll go down a spiral. Because if you don't get it or you do get it and you get released like that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I had this like I hear that from a lot of people. They've been so anxious and so like mentally only this and this is the way and you have to do this, otherwise nothing. And the way you said it describes it perfectly. And a lot of those guys never get it because they, I believe, not what believe, I know, if they sense from any participant of a tryout they're desperate, they don't want them.
Hmm. It just seems like it's a bad mixture to take a chance on someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, you should do it and have fun. And
Hmm.
like, I remember me, I was like, okay, I'm not body type, I'm not a bodybuilder, I'm not 7 feet tall or anything. I have a decent height and a decent weight. I do not look like a professional wrestler on WWE umbrella, but I know my capabilities in the ring, and I knew that from that perspective, I would be one of the best in the tryout. And in the end, it turned out that I did the tryout. It was hard for sure, but I was able to accomplish it with a smile on my face. I failed at the promo session because that was never my strength. But then they realized, okay, he has potential. So eventually I got signed because of they were looking for a German guy and blonde, blue eyes. I'm from Germany. I have a German accent, and yeah, I just showed them what they wanted. So
Hmm.
that's why I got the opportunity.
Now, how long after the tryout did you get the phone call?
Oh, a couple months.
Hmm.
It was very surprising because I have the number, and I'm a lot of times I'm pretty like if some weird number calls me, I do not, go on the phone or just,
Hmm.
hang it up or whatever. But then on that time, I just went to the phone and said, "Hey, this is from WWE. Remember? Calling you because we want to sign you for the development program for NXT WWE. Are you interested?" And before he could finish the sentence, I was, "Yes, I am." So dream come true.
So, how was that process from going from where you're at to NXT? Because everybody that I've talked to that came from outside the U.S., it was not an easy transition at all.
No,
No.
no, no, not at all. Um, I, in not even speaking about the culture difference, which
Hmm.
I'm now just, used to it. So because America became my second home, but so I just packed two trolleys, two luggage bags, big ones, put all my stuff in there, like clothes and like just important stuff, no furniture at all. Just moved over there and tried to settle down, but it was a rocky road for sure.
Hmm.
Not only just to apply for certain things like a social security number, open up a bank account, and having something where I can pay a deposit for my apartment, etc., etc. Um, thank God we had somebody like his name was David Bailey, and at that time he was the general manager for the Performance Center. He was the goat. He knew every ins and out, and when shit hit the fan and you thought like, oh my God, I'm done and this. He always figured out the way how to kind of like get out of the the impossible things and made it possible somehow because of he taught me kind of like just to do the right politics with the right people. You speak with the guy on the account from the bank account and just try to figure out a different way because otherwise they would lose a customer and that's in
Hmm.
Germany nobody would care, but America it's a different vibe. So that was a pretty like rocky road as I said, but also just to get used to the climate in the performance center. Because in that time, before I came over to the States, I was wrestling every weekend. So I was used to the weekly bumping and everything, and just just doing the grind and just traveling the hours and whatever. So some of the stuff went or got easier, and some of the stuff got a little bit more harder, but not harder on the body pressure or anything, more harder mentally
Hmm.
because first off, you knew, right? You knew, so you walk on eggshells. Every misstep you do, you get judged, or you have some people look over you and say, "Oh, the fucking new guy," right?
Hmm.
Stuff like this. So it was hard sometimes to read the vibes. Luckily, because of my work in WW, I knew a lot of guys there, so I was familiar with Solomon Crowe, Sam McKellen at that time, El Generico, Sami Zayn, Finn Balor, et cetera, because I met them at WXW, and most of them I worked as well. So they knew me, and they kind of like gave me the heads up on like if you need something, let me know. So that was sweet, but also like a lot of things went strange because at that time when I got hired, they also swapped the head coaches.
Hmm.
So Bill DeMott was fired because of he was a bully, and then Matt Bloom was taken. It was yeah, he became the head coach right away, but he had to kind of like transitioning over, so they still had to figure out the do's and don'ts.
Hmm.
And because the other system from Build a Mod was so silly that I had to sit around for 1 month, 3 hours and watch beginner class, which sucks. So
Hmm.
nothing against beginner class. Everybody has to learn from the beginning. I had to learn from the beginning. But when I was at the beginner's class, I did not want that anybody with the wrestling experience I had is sitting there and just watch me how to learn a lockup or headlock takeover or whatever. That's stupid. So I was pretty frustrated with that, and I showed my frustration as well,
Hmm.
which is not pretty professional, but I couldn't help myself because I was pissed off. And I think you Americans call that German honesty. So sometimes we cannot fake it; we have to show you.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it was a pretty big adaptation for me. But at the time, then you kind of like learned how to be patient and how the system works there, and you showed up on time. You showed up for the extra hours. You couldn't wrestle in the ring, but you still could go to the gym. So you tried to improve there and show that you once you build up a nice physique and everything, and you want to be their promo classes, and like the majority of that, what I really learned was just be responsible for your own action. If they're good, if they're bad, whatever it is, be responsible for it, and just try to be the better you, and just try to improve. And that's the best place on earth to learn from the best. And yeah, I think I used it to my all to my capability. And when I think about it, like all like the classes I had with talents together, they're now all over the place, WWE and AEW. But just to be around those people and know them from the personal standpoint and know them where they're coming from and everything, that's gold, and I cherish that memory forever.
So after the 3 months you had to do the beginners, once that was passed, how was your initial, thoughts on NXT when they finally let you, get in the ring and kind of show them what you could do and who you were?
It was a little bit of hustle
Hmm.
because I was not used that much. So I skipped beginner's class
Hmm.
because we just went there and it was this first month of just, cool down, settling down, everything. But for some weird reason, like I said, we were not allowed to go into the wrestling ring. And then later on, I skipped beginner's class and went to the advanced class with Norman Smiley, and I could showcase myself a little bit more because he's also a European wrestling style guy, and he gave me like the platform for like, hey, okay, you wrestled before, show me what you got, and he taught me like a new wrestling style, learned how to call stuff on the fly or how to just react, and like the do's and don'ts of how to make it possible just to work in a safe environment, but also in NXT, you have those so-called coconut shows, or coconut tours, which are the Florida shows where you, as NXT development part, you travel around, you upload the truck, you set up the ring and the lights and everything, and after the show, you tear everything down and put it back on the truck, and then you go to the next town, or you go back home and then you drive out to the other town. Depends what kind of schedule you have in the performance center. So it took me a while to get actually on the cards right there because later that was also one of the things I was a little bit kind of like asking why I'm not on the card because I want to make sure that they see me wrestle, see me
Hmm.
perform, and that the investment they're doing with paying me a weekly salary, that they know, okay, we can invest more or he's it worth it, depending, because I want to work. But then they told me, we know you can work and we see the results in the training and in the reports, but you have to wait a little bit more until your time comes. And then there will a time come where you do not want to be on every show because you're sore. But I had to wait a lot of times because there have been some other guys they want to put in because they need to see an improvement. So I understood that later as well. But first it was frustrating. But then there was actually the time, and there was the time when Sanity got formed, where I was on every live show, and then I was happy when I was not booked for one of those live shows because I could just lay back and just enjoy the show. But all everything was a nice experience, and that's again that's one of the things you have to be patient if you want to become a fresher wrestler. Uh, Nothing happens from today to tomorrow. So sometimes
Hmm.
it takes a year, sometimes two, sometimes a day, sometimes a month. So
Was Sanity always the direction they were going to go with you?
um, not really, but then they figure out that, or then they saw potential in me just to be a part of that group.
Hmm.
I remember they had some other guys planned for that, but one of the guys got released, the other guy quit, and then one of the guys that was sorry fault that was still left, and then they put me with him together. And I was used to be a tag team wrestler in the European scene, and he was pretty green because he came from amateur wrestling right to the WWE development system. Great guy and very talented, but at that time he needed somebody a little bit with more experience. And I was not perfect at all, but I could play out my experience in like tag team wrestling. So we gelled good together, and they saw potential. Like, hey, that could be a tag team. And then they figure out, hey, we have signed Eric Young, so there's like three guys. Then later, Nikki Cross together and Triple H had his wish and had like a crew of weird-looking psychopaths.
So, what was there any plans for Sanity, or was it the way that it played out? Was that always the plan for Sanity, the way that they played it out? I know there was a big usually a difference between NXT and then the main roster, and then
Um,
the,
I'm not sure. So I think so. My opinion, we should have been 1 or 2 years longer in NXT
hmm
to develop more the characters and everything, just to have more takeover appearances and everything. Because there are a lot of weird, there were a lot of stories not being told. Uh, it felt like a little bit rushed with the main roster call up, and apparently, what we hear, they had plans for us, but then they had some other things scheduled, and they kind of like did not had any use for us at all. So you don't know. I never heard it from Vince in person or from Hunter in person. So you know,
hmm
the talk is always big. The gossip. So we don't know for certain, but I believe so. But in the end, it turned out
yeah.
that yeah, it was nothing.
So after Sanity, you go back to NXT. Was there plans to like rebuild, or because I know you did Imperium. So between that and that, was there anything that they had in mind?
Yeah, there was actually a plan just to reform Sanity.
Hmm.
So they split up Sanity just to get us off the main roster because, like Hunter said in that time, that I do not want that you guys get wasted sitting catering and getting depressed, and eventually get fired because no use for you guys. They built it up NXT Europe, and they wanted to have like a strong group right there, so they put me with my old fellas from Germany. So we built up Imperium, and we became the strong force in Imperium, in NXT UK as Imperium. And the plan later was they would separate me from Imperium because I would be the weak link, because I would challenge anybody without asking Walter and would lose basically, would make the group look bad. So, and then in that time also, they would reform Sanity with Kieran Dayton, Big Damo, and Eric Young, and they would win the NXT Tag Team Gold. And in that case, they would go in the feud with Imperium, and I would join again Sanity, and then we would reform Sanity. We would have a feud against Imperium, and then we would go back to US NXT. But then the pandemic hit, and EY got released, so they couldn't fulfill this vision of creative. So unfortunately, never happened.
That would have been very, very good. That would have drawn very well, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
every time when I tell the story, like the person on the other side, damn, that sounds nice. And yeah, like I remember talking with Sean, and he laid out the entire idea, and I was not keen on that because I like to be in Imperium because I could go back to the wrestling part, which
Hmm.
I more love. But now just thinking about it, like it would have been a great idea, would have been a nice thing just to reform Sanity and just to kind of like rehearse the years or just get back the years we would have needed in NXT before we got called up. So, but hey, in the end, everything happens for a reason, right?
Hmm. So after NXT UK folds, what was your next move?
Um, After NXT UK, I went back to the States and we just went back on TV for NXT US because of the
Hmm.
pandemic, because we all kind of like isolated ourselves and just
Hmm.
went to TVs. And I had the chance to travel back from Europe to the States and went over the border because my son is born in America. So I could like do my obligations right there. Then I got released.
I that's the do the podcast about developmental because there's so much potential in all these people, and I just feel like they could have done so much more. And I hate that sometimes it's just like they just want to. There's nothing right now, so we're just gonna we'll move
It
on.
is what it is, man.
Yeah.
That's the wrestling business,
Hmm.
and like Rim Regal once said, "What can I take from that?"
Hmm.
Everything what happens for a reason, right? But
Hmm.
you have to have the mindset of, okay, when something happened, it doesn't matter positive, negative. What can I take from that? What is the learning aspect from that? And for me, getting released in the end, it was the best thing happened. Not financially. Financially, I was good, right? I
Hmm.
was happy, but wrestling career-wise, I wasn't happy because I was not in a position I would love to be in. That is constantly wrestling on TVs, showing my abilities that I'm a good wrestler or I'm a very good wrestler, and just proving like to me and to my audience that I'm worth just to put in more thought than just the sidekick or just the aftermath or the house show or the dark match.
Hmm.
So when I got released, I kind of like, reviewed myself and ask myself why, because you can blame everybody, but you should, ask yourself, am I the reason? And I clearly saw like me in the picture, and I was kind of like, yeah, I would release myself because I got a little bit cocky. I was full of myself. I was not in a great shape and everything, and my working attitude could have been better and everything, right? So after a while you kind of like you think you're not replaceable because of X, Y, and Z. And I always had a good relationship with everybody in it, and I always try to be as professional as possible. But sometimes it's not enough, and you constantly have to work on yourself and on your behaviors, and it's like the effort and the body language and everything. And
Hmm.
a lot of times it's kind of like, okay, which can we let go? Who's replaceable? Who's not worth the investment right now? And then I was one of the guys
Hmm.
from those many releases. Uh, but in general, like I thought career-wise, it was the best decision they made for me because I would never went off because again the money was good and it was too comfortable sitting in a house and have
Hmm.
have the so-called fuck you money.
Yeah.
So but then when going back to Germany, going back to the Indies, I had to start going back into the hustle mode, into the working mode, because I had to provide for my family.
Hmm.
So, and that's kind of like when you back against the wall, you become the savage again, where you kind of like go back into this working mode, grinding mode. And I felt like this energy back, this fire back for professional wrestling. So I kind of like went back. I kind of like rode a little bit the wave of former NXT
Hmm.
WWE superstar guy, which is kind of like a little bit a little bit low right now. But then I got higher again with he's a good indie wrestler and he can perform on a great
Hmm.
level and he always brings out good things. And lately one of the nicest compliments somebody can give to me is that I never saw a bad match of you. And I said,
Hmm.
okay, thank you very much. So
Yep.
that means my working rate is apparently good. So that's always happening because of got released. So I'm not bitter about that. I was in that time because nobody wants to get released. Nobody wants to get rejected. But it's always like to kind of like man up and just be
Hmm.
responsible for your own actions. And if you point the finger, always like three fingers point back to you. So
Hmm.
a stable set of like a stable mindset with that, and just again stop blaming everybody. Don't fall into a victim mentality because your own actions, show what you're worth.
I agree. So, life after WWE, how's everything going?
Nice so far. So again, like money wise, it's not the same, not for sure,
Hmm.
but I'm more happier. I'm my own boss. Don't get me wrong. Uh, I would love just to get another like contract in just for like the constant income and everything and working on a big TV production. But independent wrestling is fun. It's cool because you can connect with your fans with merchandise, with autograph sessions, with seminars where you can teach the younger generation. I opened up my own wrestling school where I am right now. So that's a big dream. I fulfilled myself. So big dream come true also for retirement plans.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not planning to retire right now, but when it's
Mm-hmm.
time and then you start to figure it out, it's maybe too late. So now just to do that. And then in general, it's fun to travel. Again, Europe is such a great continent. I take a flight in 2 hours, I'm in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Or I drive 2 hours, I'm in Poland or Czech Republic. Or lately I was had a wrestling seminar, I was a coach for 1 week in France, and I was in Finland lately for the first time. So a lot of countries, also like Middle East and everything. So I'm busy. When I have a free weekend in 1 month, that's basically a bad month. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in three different countries. So it's a lot of fun though.
You're one of those select people that former NXT superstar doesn't define you, and that's an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can. You should. I mean, I respect when you have a guy coming in
Mm-hmm.
and he's a former WWE superstar, legend, whatever. But it's like a candle, right? It's nice, it glows, but sooner or later, it it's off. And I did not want to kind of like rest on that. I want to kind of like use it because I earned it. So I use that for potential kind of like to get out my name, get the bookings in, yada yada yada, establish myself, but then show them I do not do like the typical WWE ABC match. I can go, so I can do the crazy
Mm-hmm.
spots. I can do this and that, and I can. So with all like the great coaches in the performance center, one of the greatest, Shawn Michaels, he taught us to work occasionally towards the audience, what they want and what they don't want. So if you're in the audience and they like television wrestling, WWE style, of course you don't go nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have some audience that want to see a little bit more, let's say a little bit more detailed professional wrestling, telling a story with transitions and moves and everything, you have to go that way. Otherwise, they
Mm-hmm.
don't care. So, and even they don't care if you form a WWE guy. And that's the fun part of that, just to adjust to the different crowds, to the different cities, to the different countries as well. And in general, like if you build up your reputation on being a good in-ring performer, because nothing else matters than independent, eventually eyes will catch on you and you maybe have the chance just to go on the bigger league or go to the bigger leagues. And yeah, however, when that opportunity comes, you have to knock it out the park. So it's again, that's the
Mm-hmm.
hustle and that's the fun part.
So if and when NXT Europe comes about, it's something you would do.
Sure,
Mm-hmm.
I would be interested in, of course, but I always learned from my mistakes and also learned from my experience. And um, if I would sign again with WWE or NXT Europe or whatever big company, yeah, sure. But this time, I probably have a better look inside the contract. And this
Mm-hmm.
time, I would love to get more a fair play in the contract situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of details in there, and you have to be aware of what you do and what you sign. And of course, is a nice big number what you make a year, but also it comes with other stuff, and you have to be aware of that. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things is that of course, it's your employer and you the employee, but in a lot of things, I believe it should be equal when it comes, for example, for releasing. So that's one of the things I want to kind of like get more into it instead of just sign because of money.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I would be totally interested for working for WWE again or general big company.
If you had any advice to give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
Work hard. It's always working hard because you can be talented, but when you're a lazy piece of S word, your talent isn't worth
Mm-hmm.
anything. But if you work hard, and even if you're not talented, eventually you will get it. And because of your hard work, you will earn the respect of your coworkers. For example, tomorrow we have the first dojo show in my school. So today we prepared
Mm-hmm.
and I let it open for all like the students to attend to help. So I put like a text message out said, "Hey, we're preparing for tomorrow. That we tomorrow don't have to hustle until like get in, so we have more time just to prepare for the matches. But in general, if you like to come, you're welcome. If don't feel obligated to do it. But we would like to see everybody here, hands and deck.
Hmm.
So some people are here, some people are not. Some people have work, some people are lazy. That is what it is. But like it's always like if you see somebody's helping, if you see somebody he's kind of busting his ass with the training, he does the extra sessions, he has a good attitude and everything. That's like hard work. And if you put in the hard work, you will get rewarded for sure.
Hmm. I just want to thank you for your time today. Thank you what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do. It was an honor to be able to sit down with you today, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for your invitation. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, I wish you all the best with your podcast. And I'm glad we had the chance to talk to each other.
Thank you. If there's anything I can ever do, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you very much.